Hey, you guys, welcome back to another week of Showing Up For You. We are laughing because we're just telling jokes. I'm Jasmine.
I'm Shon.
And I am happy and I am excited to talk about our topic today. Do you ever have those moments where you just sit and you like end up in nostalgia? Like today at work, I was talking with some of my coworkers and we were talking about like a t-shirt that we saw recently. And it was a cassette and then it was a, what's it called? Like a pencil. And it was like, what does this mean? And we were talking to one of my coworkers and she goes, I don't know what that means. And we were both just like, I'm not that old, but like we looked at her and we were like, girl. And so we ended up having the conversation about like, this is what it is. And this is what a cassette tape is. And this is what you do with a pencil and all that stuff. But anyways, it just led me to think about like so many moments of like when I was younger or even, more into like when I was in high school and things that I went through in high school, things that I liked, things that I disliked. And even just, I got to the point of just thinking about like, how did I get to some of the conclusions in my life when I was in high school?
Yeah.
You know,
like all the choices that you probably made. I don't know. I think more about like what I thought was cool. Like I remember wearing sodas and like overall shorts, and I used to wear this like big, like when donut buns were in. I used to wear this big bun on the top of my head, and I'm like, who let me walk out the house like that?
Right.
Like I don't know why I had permission to be that. But we were so sure about certain things.
Sure.
Walkman on the hip. Well, CD players too.
Yep, CD players.
But you can't you have to keep it flat and you have to carry extra batteries.
Right, you can't go like this.
You can't. Like I think about that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah.
I really thought I was making a statement, and
yes. Or like, why was it that I was like walking around the mall with my best friend going to
that
Claire's?
was like the thing to do. Claire's.
Yes.
Oh my God. That was like the thing to do, wasn't it?
It really was. Anyways, it just, there's so many things that like I did. And like you said, thought that it was cool and it was like the thing to do. But then I was like, why did I think that was cool? What is it that led me to believe that this was like the right thing for me to do?
We thought we knew everything. I don't know. Like, I think every teen has their like moment or like season of confidence turned like cockiness. You know, like they just know everything. And then we look back on it with so many regrets.
So many regrets.
I don't know. What was the worst thing you wore like in high school? What do you think was like the worst thing you wore?
Gauchos.
Oh my God. I never liked gauchos.
Why did gauchos have a chokehold on?
Oh God. I just never understood what gauchos like were, what it was giving you. Like, what was it?
It was not giving. I also though think about you remember the era of when Victoria's Secret Pink made the leggings with the fold down?
Oh, the yoga leggings?
Yes.
Yes, I do remember those.
That was the era of the leggings beginning. That was bad. Looking back, I'm like...
Look what we started.
I know. What was the worst thing that you wore?
I think sodas. Like, I thought I was a Spice Girl. Like, I wore sodas. And sodas had, like, this platform at the, like, bottom of the shoe. And it was just regular tennis shoe. And I wore it with, like, overall skirts. Because skirts is a thing. What are skirts, you might ask? It looks like a skirt, but there's shorts under. So you can still play tetherball. But it looks like you have on a skirt. Don't come for me.
Right.
But I think about that now, like, what am I doing? What am I doing with a skirt? But, you know, I mean, unless I'm playing tennis or something.
I guess, right.
You know, but it just...
But that makes sense.
It makes sense. But, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I would do. I remember wearing, like, sweater vests. Like, it was... I don't know. Don't do this. We're not... Velour suits. Hey, I'm not going to... Listen. Velour suits were very comfortable.
Absolutely.
Very comfortable.
Those have made a comeback in multiple different eras.
Oh yeah.
So those are a timeless piece.
Those
Keep
win.
your velour suit.
I know. I still have one. I went to this 90s, or it was a 2000s party.
You started to say 90s, but it was in the 2000s.
And I have a velour suit.
Yeah, you do.
So listen, it's showing up for you. If y'all see me in a beige velour
it's shorts too.
Mind your business.
Boom.
Because I purchased it in the year 2021.
Yes, she did. With her white Air Forces. Okay, she came correct with the fit.
I was living the dream.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But it's also funny because we're seeing like what we wore in high school at like the front section of Target now.
Yeah, and y'all think it's new. Like y'all think it's like
we did this. Trendsetters. Anyways, as we're just, walking down memory lane with that, it would not be showing up for you. What's it called? Just for us to be who we are, I guess, and like how we talk about our podcast. We want to get into the nitty gritty stuff, the things that you might have asked yourself, challenged. I know that some of our listeners are those who are in high school. And, part of it is us talking to you but we're also, here to create a space that we can reflect together and kind of, get to the root of, some of the stuff that we were navigating, but also to be able to navigate together with others. So that's what our episode was about today, our teenage years. How do you feel about that?
Not so much ours.
Yeah, not so much ours.
I think you guys don't want to hear about ours. But yeah, just the idea that we wanted to address how I think we just have a heart for what teenagers are going through, and wanted to use this episode or platform to kind of share some things that we had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm excited. I absolutely find no discomfort in talking about the awkward life decisions I had to make, because I survived, and it could be worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good.
Good. I like that. So there's a couple of things we want to go through. I think we came up with like 5 or 6 like specific ones. I want to start with, there's a lie that you have to have it figured out when you're in high school. Like what is going to be next in your life, the decisions that you're going to make, like you have to have it figured out how you're going to get to the next step. I believe that that's something that a lot of, teens, struggle through. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I think that whether it's like pressure from your circle or I guess self-inflicted pressure, you think that you're at an age where you can have it figured out, and that's actually really impossible. I don't know who like made us believe that we could have it figured out, especially between like 16 and 18. Like come on, like nobody at 16 through 18 like has it figured out.
Right.
But I often wonder, like, what was the intention on the pressure where that came from? Like, was it your parents saying, hey, just make a decision on this next step? Or is it like the lie that, society tells us that 18 means you're a legal adult and you should learn how to drive by now, and you can, drink at 21, and you can, like, it's like, is that what makes you feel like you're an adult? Like these like laws and obligations and expectations, which I think is actually silly, because teach me about taxes, teach me about finances, teach me about mortgage and home buying, instead of like giving me like this like motivation of learning how to drive and drink alcohol. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think that that's a lot, that those are markers that we think make us an adult.
Yeah.
And so when you say like, you're 18 now, you're grown, or you're 18 now, or you should know this, it comes with so much more, when really, no, you're still a baby. Like you haven't paid a bill. I don't care if you have a side job at Taco Bell. Right. Like you don't know what life really is like. And And so I don't know, I guess it all depends on where that's coming from. Are your parents telling you you have to have more responsibility now? Or do you feel like you're in a situation where you have to pull your own weight around the house? Or are you going off to college and you feel like you have to speed up, the growing up process, So I think it can come from a lot of different places. Either way, it is a lie. I wish it was more acceptable to not know what to do at that age. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that it's, we're heavily involved in, some young women's lives, and it's so hard to see them feel the pressure that they have to have it figured out and like what they're going to do next. And to also see that to not give themselves like grace to go through the process of figuring it out. So I think that's like such a beautiful thing to go through. Like, even if your peers are putting pressure on you to figure it out, your family members, or even, whatever the next step is in your life. There's something that's so great to be able to sit back and be like, although, maybe somebody's putting pressure on myself, but this is the choice that I am going to make as I figure it out to where I'm going to go next and what I want to step into next. Yeah. I don't know, that's something that even that's just a lie that, take it outside of teenage years, that's something that people kind of continue to put on you.
Yeah, I think that's correct. That's true for some people.
Yeah.
But just back to what you're saying, like I do, and I'll just kind of correct this on my end. Like, I don't think it's just young girls. I think it's young men too. I think that like my involvement in the local high school, I've seen that there are, and then just even like younger people in life, I've seen that there's this rush to grow up. And I wish we always read those memes where it's like adulthood is the worst hood. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Like, I wish somebody would have been like, slow down.
Yeah.
Do not rush into this. Because we feel like this pressure, like to speed up, that. I mean, I could even say like at 25, there were things I was unsure about. So even when we think about these young men and women growing up during this time, the way the internet is just wilding, the way inflation is just kicking our butts. I wouldn't want to learn how to drive right now. Like, gas prices are ridiculous. McDonald's ain't gonna pay you enough. You know what I mean? Like, I see these teenagers working at like Defy, that trampoline park, or they work like at the mall. And I'm like, I know that you're probably like just spending your money on clothes and food. I know it. You know what I mean? Where they're not being taught to like be smart about their money and things like that. But just because they have a job, they feel like, I'm grown, like I can do this. So it is kind of scary to watch, because I don't want them to crash and burn. I want them to know how to save. I want them to know how to almost like I tell you this, use this time to screw up. Yeah. Not everybody has the room to, so I'm not assuming that everybody has the room to take their time. But if you can use this time to take those chances of slowing down and finding your way. Yeah. And not rushing to be so independent, because once you're there, your environment expects you to stay there. Yeah. Once you leave, once you go, once you start this whole, I got my own job, I got my own money, I got this on, then your environment expects that of you. And it's hard to fall on your butt, after that. So fall on your butt now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you do it now, you're actually making stepping stones to set yourself up for success. When it's when you really have no choice.
So you're talking about all this stuff, when it comes to teens speeding into adulthood and things like that, or having to figure it out. But I think it's important to kind of break down what exactly they think they're figuring out, right? When you're a kid going into teen years and trying to be this adult, you you can only see what you are shown. And so I don't assume, and then this is just from my experience and the people that I've mentored and been a part of their lives. I don't assume that your mom and dad are sharing with you every breakdown of every bill or financial decision they're making. I don't assume that you know how much interest is on their, mortgage payments. I don't assume they're showing you their credit score and how they've built it up. I don't assume that they're involving you in their marital counseling sessions. I don't assume these things are happening. I don't assume that your mom and dad are telling you all the ins and out of the hardships of their job. And so those realities are non-existent. Right. And so then you start to see, okay, well, then what are these teenagers seeing that they want so bad? They're seeing companionship, whatever that looks like in their lives.
Yeah.
So they want a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They're seeing the ability to spend, the ability to independently drive. They're seeing these like big kid things. Right. Yeah. And I think that's actually super misleading because car notes are real if you can't outright buy your car.
Yes.
My husband goes around the house and like aggressively shuts off every light because my kids don't know anything about an electric bill, right?
Mm-hmm. No respect.
You know what I mean? Like we get up and go to work and we like glimpse at how hard our kids are resting and we get jealous. Like, I wish I could still be asleep, So I look at a lot of these teenagers are only seeing the like perks of adulthood. Mm-hmm. And so, on top of what they're already going through, because I'm not even going to take this conversation into adulthood. I think that we're sitting right where we need to be with just talking about their desires and their goals as teens. Mm-hmm. But aside from what they're going through, which is puberty, peer pressure, academics, sports, insecurities, inadequacy, bullying, keeping up with the Joneses, you know what I mean? Like all these things, aside from all that, like they think that they're ready for a relationship or they think they're supposed to be like, you know what I mean? Like they think, so I look at a lot of different personalities that I come across and, I do have favorites. I'm just going to say that. I do have favorites. And my nieces are like so near and dear to me. They have two different personalities and they're both just like these amazing young women. But I see that they both attract and portray different vibes. So one of them is very social and she has the friends, right? And then another one like couldn't care less. Yeah. And she's fine reading a book by herself, And so to see them interact and see them go through like different things in their teenage years, it's I desire to want to encourage them more. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't even want to talk about dating with them because I've seen them grow up and so I'm just like,
you have to be alone until you're 30.
Let's scoot them out of the way for a second. Mm-hmm. But I do, I guess, want to talk about like, I guess how teenagers choose friends. Like when you were a teenager, based off of your personality, based off of your interaction in school, what do you think was your main criteria for choosing friends?
I'll be honest. I think that my approach to choosing friends was really poor. I feel like I was always like awkward. I share that I was like, I've always kind of felt like I've lived in two spaces. Mm-hmm. And I guess like I was like, where is it that I just kind of could fit in and let that like be enough. And then friends will kind of just flow from there, so I did some sports. So, okay, who do I kind of get along with? Mm-hmm. Great. We're friends, in other places, in my classes, who do I get along with? Great. We can be friends. But there was never actually like a moment that I was like, these are the type of people I want to be surrounded by. And, you know, these are, you know, qualities and attributes in, you know, friends that I want in my life. I want them to have, you know, values that look like this, or, you know, things like that. And so I ended up conforming to a lot of people that I was around. And then, you know, there's moments that I had friendships blow up in my face because we never actually knew who each other were, like at our core and what was important to us. And so, you know, in my teenage years, I think that my approach was really poor, and that ended up leading to some bad friendships, and then ultimately led to me having a really hard time making true, genuine friends.
Yeah. That'll do it. I truly and it reminds me having to say this. I truly believe that either you are going to influence the people you're around, or they're going to influence you. Like, there's no in between. You know what I mean? Because we can absolutely agree that we can be individuals in a crowd, but someone is going to influence someone. Right. And so be careful who you hang out with. You know what I mean? I think that one of my struggles I knew who I was, I knew who I should be hanging out with. I was like, okay, I'm a Black girl from, you know, LA. And because we moved, we moved out of LA to you know, IE area, Inland Empire area. So Riverside, Moreno Valley. And I was looking for a new friend group, and knowing that this was a whole different place, it was hard to find my people. And so I went off of people that looked like me rather than people that thought like me or wanted what I wanted. And so I made a lot of mistakes in trusting that, well, just because they're brown skin and they have the same type of family life I have, they're my friends. And that just wasn't always the case. Yeah. Or, you know, because they liked the same things I liked, because they liked singing. So it didn't matter what color or race they were, because they liked what I like, you know, kind of similar to what you're saying. Yeah. But it ended up being being around them influenced me in a way that got me in trouble at home. You know what I mean? I remember my mom saying stuff like, I don't know who you're hanging around, but you get I could tell this isn't you. Yeah. You know, and as a parent now, I see it. When my kids do things out of the ordinary, I'm like, this, don't let your friend from school get you in trouble, you know? But so that's the thing that I think that I wish teenagers knew, is choosing who you are around means choosing how you are going to be influenced and the decisions you make going forward. Yeah. And here's the unfair but really realistic thing. There's a such thing as being guilty by association. There's a such thing as being clumped in a crowd. There's a such thing as being looked at negatively because you hang out with somebody. And although there are a lot of situations where that's not fair and it's not true, the reality is you better be confident in who you are standing next to and who you believe in, because sometimes it could be a mistake. And that's just the reality of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I look at choosing your friend group based off of what's popular, or choosing your friend group based off of what you feel like is the coolest thing right now. Not everybody came from a home that teaches good, you know, friendship manners. Yeah. Not every teenager you run into came from a home that is against bullying or manipulation. You know what I mean? That's the reality of it. You know, I had my share of getting bullied. I had my share of being spoken to differently. I had my share of being teased. I had my share of not realizing I was being used. It took years to realize oh my God, yeah, I'm being used, or I'm being, you know what I mean? Yeah. Taken advantage of.
That's real.
And so, you know, I guess my advice for every teenager, know that now, because as an adult, I kid you not, if you don't already, you're going to have a friend that is so opposite of you, but you trust them with your life. Right. You're going to have somebody that might look like you never would have run into them. Yeah. as a friend, and they just might end up being the godparent to your children. I don't know.
Right.
Best man or maid of honor at your wedding, because you never know, who that person is, but you're going to learn to be careful about who to choose,
Yeah, definitely. I think that, something that I had to, I guess, learn the hard way was, we've talked about loyalty in past episodes. And I think there's sometimes a pressure put on friendships of like wanting to have this super beautiful narrative of like, I've been friends with this person for so long, and, they just like need to continue to be in my life. But ultimately, I think another thing that I wish that I would have learned is the seasonal part of friendships. Like that applies when you're in your teenage years as well. It's not just something that's, applicable later in life. And so, you could have gone to the same school since kindergarten, but you're in high school now. You're different people. You have different, likes. You have, different interests with each other, and you can acknowledge each other and you can respect each other, which is fantastic. But you don't necessarily have to be in, that person's friend. Because, there was moments that I had to ask myself, like, if I was in a rut or if I was in trouble or, something happened to me, who would be standing beside me at this very moment? And that's something that I wish that I would have, thought about much more.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me think, like, if you think about it, okay, you're talking about like these like long-term friends, and we've talked about this before. It's like, just because you put in time does not mean you're worth keeping. It just was a really long season. But I think about just as a person, right? You talked about, kindergarten, or let's just say elementary school, right? Think about all the things a kid, young woman or young man, could go through between elementary school and senior year of high school. Let's just think about it, okay? There is the process of learning about religion. There's a process of learning about different manners. There's a process of maybe they moved from one place to another and they're adapting to seeing different races or different groups of people. What if, their parents divorced during that time and they've, seen a different side of their parents? What if they had, their mom had a new baby, and so now the house is busier and so they're frantic? What if they went through puberty and now their attitude has changed? What if, you know what I mean? Like, look at all the things that can happen during that span of time. And so when when you see that in a person, they still have so much learning to do for themselves.
Oh yeah. So
to feel like that's the same person that you were best friends with, that's not the same person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not the same person. That person has been through so much and had to grow through so much. And I'm not saying this is everybody's life.
Yeah.
For instance, between 6th grade and 12th, I found out I had a tumor, had a really serious surgery. I was told I would never walk again. I would never have kids. I would never play sports. I healed from that. I had so much trouble in school because I couldn't adapt and couldn't catch back up. I had issues, family issues. I dealt with a lot of like sadness and depression because I couldn't accept as a child that these decisions were made for me and I wasn't even an adult yet.
Yeah.
I beat the odds. I had like a strong relationship with God. I literally became like top of the class, ran track and cross country, wrote for I did so many things. It's literally like flipped upside down.
Yeah.
And so I was not that 12, 13-year-old that was diagnosed with that and told that horrible news was not the same person that graduated high school.
No.
So
yeah,
to understand that high school is a place that you're learning how to be a human.
Yeah.
You are growing through so much. It's like everybody is in one group, literally like confused about who to be. Boom. And in that, you feel the pressure of having to figure it out. You feel like, you want to find friends, and these friends might not have their own lives figured out. They might be going through other things. And so everybody is literally in this big fishbowl trying to figure themselves out and find their way. And if we acknowledge that, we understand why it's so much pressure, why high school kids care what they wear to school, why they like
keeping up with whatever trend.
They want to keep up with the trends. They are more invested in what people think.
Yeah. They're
more invested in what the internet is saying. They're more invested in like staying with the times, because then it's like, it's simpler if I go with the flow. It's harder if I go away from the current. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I understand. I get it.
Yeah. It feels like the easy way out in the moment, but the like lasting effects will not be the easy way out. Like the unraveling and the unwrapping and the unlearning, I'm telling you, you do it when you're in high school, in your teen years, man, it's going to be effortless later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it kind of makes you think, like, how did you handle dating in high school? Because that's also a thing. The high school kids feel like everybody's partnered up. Like, for what? Y'all can't.
Right.
Y'all, look, did we mention hormones? Hormones are thriving in high school.
You know, it was for a homecoming date, or, you know, to have somebody for companionship, to have somebody to hold hands with, you know, walking through the hallways, to have somebody to text to, you know what I mean? Like, that leads me like back to friends.
I
like,
that's texting in high school. I'm sorry. I had a chirp phone. It was like a walkie-talkie. So that's Jasmine. I'm a little bit up there. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
It was a Nokia.
People that you were.
Motorola.
I mean, we could go with phone calls. Who you wanted to have phone calls with? Is that better?
After 9 o'clock.
Right. Hey, my mom's going to bed. You can call me, but make sure don't let it ring twice.
Don't call my house.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna call you. Don't call my house. Right.
If I don't pick up by the third ring, hang up. but like with dating, it's, you know, or I know for, you know, when I was in high school, it was a keeping up with the Joneses. Like, if you did not have your date on lock, that's embarrassing for you. Which is, looking back, I'm like, that's dumb. That's not true. And there's actually a lot of instances. I went to a lot of dances with friends, and it was much more fun because you don't have an obligation to anybody. You can go live your best life. If you don't feel like being on the dance floor for this song, I'm out of here. Like, there's actually a lot of
friend group dates. Oh,
they were the absolute best. But, you know, with dating, it goes back to the first, you know, part of what we were talking about is having this rush to grow up, you know, to, you know, rush to be an adult, I guess you could say. And, you know, I also, like, I know a lot of people who are like, I wanted to have the beautiful, like the way that people want the beautiful story of like long lasting friendship. Some people want the same thing for like, we've been together since high school and all of those things, but you change so much. Like, I know that I was dating a guy my senior year of high school, and if I would have been like, this is my end all be all, my life would look so different because I was sold a dream. I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to take care of you. And I was like, ooh, that sounds nice.
Oh, this is nice.
I'm not going to tell you what this man does now because I definitely would not be a doctor's wife. Let me tell you that one.
You right.
I'm a dirtbag for that. But
oh my God.
But I think about, I just laugh, but I think about dating, you know, in high school, and it's just ultimately just wanting the feeling of companionship, wanting a feeling of affirmation. When, you know, if I was to like tell my younger self of like the things that you want from a significant other, you can really find in friendship.
You really can. And let's be honest, like anybody that you're wanting to date can't do anything for you. I'm gonna just break it to you. Nobody, ladies, these boys can't do anything for you. They're using their allowance to take you out, and that's cute. It can't go further than that. There's no independence there.
Same for
because
fellas.
and no, I'm gonna get to that. Right. Fellas, like you're gonna go back to her house and her, you know, with her mom and her sibling. Like you guys, there's nothing more to but then I also, like, I think this is attached to just the part of companionship that kids see that they don't know that there's more. There's more to companionship than just holding hands in the hallway and like going to the movies together. Yeah. There's more. The people that you are trying to be with, these like confused minds, they are still trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah.
So as cool as it looks to like have your boo and date through high school, that person is trying to figure life out just like you.
Yeah.
I have gone to prom with a guy, definitely had fun, but I remember like winter formal, we rented this like stretch Hummer, and it was me and all my girlfriends, and it was the absolute best time.
I love that.
And I was like, why didn't I do this?
Yeah.
Sooner. You know what I mean? And then there was a time like all the track people, like, you know, because that was like my community, we did stuff together.
Yeah. Group
dates were my thing, you know, and I think that's what I would encourage for teenagers is it's really, you know, that is jumping the gun, trying to date during high school.
Yeah.
One thing I would say my mom used to do that I would definitely carry on to my children. Whenever we felt like we just needed to get to know a guy, we needed to, you know, we're like, Mom, can we go on this date? Can we go with this guy? She would say no. And she would say, here's your alternative. I'm going to cook dinner for us all. And you can invite the boy over. He can have dinner with us and you guys can play games and music. And then he can go home. She said, because we can get to know him.
Yeah.
And even as a kid, I was like, that's genius.
Absolutely.
That's genius. Yes. And she showed me that it didn't have to be this one-on-one rushing romance or what I thought I knew about romance.
Yeah.
It was like, get to know the person, joke around, have fun. And we would just play music in the living room, dance, and just joke around. And I always loved her outlook on that because it kept us out of trouble. It kept us, you know, understanding the value of a person rather than rushing into like this relationship we thought we wanted, you know? And so group dates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's a lot easier for you guys to go.
Absolutely, man. Like I actually had a friend, so a group of us in high school, and we all hung out. And one of our friends, his parents, that was like the party house, but like we wasn't partying. We weren't, you know, drinking and doing anything like that, but we had a space to like, you know, play games, watch movies, hang out, do whatever. And I look back and I realized that was actually the space that I got to, mind you, we were all friends, but that was a space that I got to learn what things I liked in men and did not like. You know?
Because you got to observe at a distance.
Yeah, exactly.
And you weren't like put on the spot or like you didn't have the pressure to feel like you had to make a certain move or respond to a certain move a certain way.
Yeah. And some of those friends, out of that friend group ended up dating because they had the opportunity to observe them as a friend, to see how they treated other people, not just them, like individually. And so navigating that, I was like, that was great. You know, that was a really good opportunity to do that. So then, you know, going actually into dating and seeing like more of it, being like, okay, I remember foundation was friendship. That's a good place to start. And then I get to go to the other things when it's an appropriate time for me to do so, because I think that in high school, it can be really easy to, you know, it's a growing period, but you can grow into who you think you're supposed to be for somebody and not the man or woman you actually want to be for someone.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like to tell, like, I think like what I used to like to tell myself is that, when it came to whether it was dating, whether it was decisions I made, or friend making, it's okay to not care. You know what I mean? Like, meaning like, it's like the power of not falling for the things, you know? And, I think that what I would encourage teenagers now is that it's okay to start now being your own individual person and not being concerned about what people are going to think once you're in school or once you're, you know, you get into a relationship or once you make a certain decision. I think that it's very easy to make decisions based off of your friends, right? You're like, I don't want to go to this college because I want to be with my friends. Let me, or I don't want to do this sport because I want to be with my friends, or I'm going to take this class with my friends. Like there's so many things that we want to do with our, and it's fine. Yeah. Or there might be extracurricular things that you want to do, but it wouldn't seem cool, or it wouldn't seem acceptable to your friend group.
Yeah.
And I guess I just want to say, like, scratch all of that. You know what I mean? Because once you guys graduate high school, there are going to be so many things under your belt because you made a decision to better yourself rather than to affirm another person that you went to school with.
Right.
I don't know. I'm fishing through my mind right now, but like, do you have any memories of things or decisions you made because of somebody else in high school and you like regret it?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I actually did a lot of those.
Okay. So choose one.
Which is so bad.
Choose one.
So bad. I missed out on, I know I talk about track a lot. It's just been a really big part of my life. I missed out on a track meet because I had a fear of missing out on getting ready with girlfriends for a school dance. It's so corny. Like, now that I say that out loud, I'm like, that's a joke. That's a big joke. Like, I could have missed out on, I don't know, running whatever time I did, or being able to qualify for something, or something that was so much bigger than a moment of, but I allowed the guilt trip or the, come on, you run so many other meets, like, you can miss one. It's all you can miss one.
Yeah.
You can.
That's what you told yourself. That's how you convince yourself.
Yeah. You can do one. We only have so many high school dances. Ma'am, I only had so many track meets as well.
Season is almost over.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, there's probably so many other moments, but I took, it's done. Like, saying it out loud, I'm like, how silly do I sound? Like, that sounds absolutely silly. That's something that was actually so important to me. I allowed others to infiltrate my passion for it. And I cared so much about what they would think if I didn't show up to that. So therefore I did. And I was missing out on the thing I actually wanted to be invested in.
Wow. You're sounding really safe compared to mine. So let me just embarrass myself. Okay, so during high school, I was, like I said before, I felt like I had a lot of making up to do because in junior high, I had to have the surgery, and a lot was happening with my body and my life. And so high school, I was like, you only get one life. And so I was like doing all the things that looked good on the college application. I mean, I remember it was called like 0 period, right? Where like you go to a class before school even starts just to like get that extra notch.
Yeah.
Girl, I ran myself ragged. I did cross country and track, step team, debate team, journalism. Like I did it all. And so I remember though, like at the end, I was convinced by friends, which I know it was just peer pressure. I was convinced by friends that like I was boring and that I was like this Jesus freak and I didn't do anything fun. Wow. And so they were like, it's your senior year. Come with us to this house party. If you knew anything about the IE in the years 2000 and like the 2001 through 5, 6, whatever, house parties were not the safest thing to go to. And so I was convinced, like I almost like just gave up who I was to please them instead of being like, I don't care. Like, so I go to this house party, they come pick me up, didn't tell my mom. And I never snuck out, never like did anything, to like lose her trust. But this time, like I think I told her I was doing something else. Anyway, I get in the car with this group of girls. We go to this party and everything that I don't do, they were doing there. And I was like, there's nothing for me here, but my friends are happy that I'm here. Minutes later, somebody's fighting, gunshots. I am, let me tell you something. The way I grew up, my dad prepared me well for a lot of things. And my environment growing up prepared me well. I don't stick around to see who shot the gun. I don't stick around to see who's doing what. I'm not going to be able to tell you who, what face. I can't identify.
Right.
My one job and goal is to get out of there. So when I say like I booked it down the street, I ended up hopping somebody's fence. Track skills came in clutch.
Sis was ready.
I'm telling you, ran down the street, hopped somebody's fence. Somebody's dog chased me. I had on black Vans, and he bit the hole. He bit a hole in my foot, my like Vans. Ran, and I kid you not, I hopped through 2 houses, 2 backyards, and met my friends on the cul-de-sac the next. Like they saw me, like they caught me at the end, and I jumped in the car, and I was like, "Take me home." Take me home. I'm not risking my life anymore.
No. This kick like, it was not worth it.
It was not worth it. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. They were so like used to this, and they were comfortable with this kind of stuff. And they were like, no, let's go to a hookah bar. And I was like, no.
Absolutely not.
But guess what? My mom didn't know where I was, and I wasn't driving. So guess where I am? I'm at the hookah bar. I'm telling you, the rest of the night, I was paranoid. I literally knew that I'm looking over my shoulder. You would think like it was horrible. Finally, at the end of the night, I go home. I immediately told on myself. Mm-hmm. I was like, listen, Mom, let's lay it out here. But I just remember feeling so out of control, so useless when I wasn't making decisions for myself, when I was making decisions to be a part of somebody's group, when I was making decisions to get approval from people.
Yeah.
I felt so helpless.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, why? Like, who wants this all the time? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who does this on a regular? Who likes the feeling of knowing that you didn't want to do this, you didn't want to make this decision, yet here you are, and it's like this possessed type, thing.
Yeah.
All because you didn't know how to, sit down at home or like say no.
Right. You're having to deal with the repercussions.
Exactly.
Not them.
Exactly.
Not anybody else.
This was their environment.
Right.
I was like,
you could tell them how mad you are, or you could express your frustration, all of that.
Like, take me
but
home.
It would have been like, okay, so people, okay, but you still came.
Yeah.
One of those moments.
Oh, that was the first and last time. The first and last time.
You won't catch me again.
You won't, never again. Mm-mm. So that was my horror story. I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun. But yeah, so that was my
You took us there, ma'am, because the not caring route. It's like it's a moment. Not in moments like that, not caring is actually the high road. Mm-hmm. It's actually the safer place, really, because it's like when you go down the other route for yourself, you open up the possibility to so much of just what does not look like you. Even you're then having to combat a lot of what's unfamiliar, what you don't know, and also things that you may not know how to navigate as well. Mm-hmm. And so then ultimately you're depending and relying on those who are your own age to navigate that for you. I'm sorry, but what am I about to learn from you? You and I are both 15, or like, not saying like, people are like, you can learn from everybody. Yes. And with some things, with these kind of things, absolutely not. No, like,
I'm going to take an L on this.
Absolutely. My 16-year-old friend's going to tell me, no, bye. I do not care. Oh God. That just brought up so much PTSD for me.
I know. Like, are you having a hard time?
Are you okay? Because I'm not okay.
I am. I actually I think that, and maybe I could speak to this, and I want you to tell me how you feel. But just to kind of come on the other side of this, because we have been talking about we understand and identify with the things that teenagers go through. I know that there's so much more, but we're just scratching the surface. Because I mean, besides like just figuring out who you are hormonally, when puberty hits, who you are, like what career you want to go after, all that stuff. Like, I think that one of the things I regret is not understanding how much intention my parents had, like the validity of their teaching. And like I always say this, eat the meat and spit out the bones, because I'm not saying all of our parents are perfect, and I'm not saying that they had this great life, but it is safe to acknowledge sometimes that they have been on this earth longer. Yeah. So there are some things that they can attest to that you would know nothing about. Yeah. And so like, now you looking at teenage Jasmine, what can you contribute to the teenagers now when it comes to how your parents might have either disciplined or corrected you based off of what they knew when you were a teenager?
I think a big thing is my mom, I had a curfew, and it got extended as I got older, but still I was never out and about past midnight ever. I was barely out and about past 11, if I'm honest. And I look back at that, and it's very, it's like the old story where you're here. It's like nothing good happens after midnight. That is not wrong. Nothing is open. There is no reason for you to be out in the streets. And like, I didn't even live close to where I went to high school. So where I lived, there was definitely nothing good. I don't want to be out there. Right. So like, that was definitely something that I was like, oh, she's definitely been here before, because there's no reason for me to be out and about. Also, my mom actually, I recognize that, and I speak about her because she was, the main person who raised me, but she, in the best way, she knew how to communicate to me. She had a hunch on people who were in my life. Wow. And, but she let me navigate those friendships. She let me, kind of figure it out. But there was a moment that she had said to me, she goes, I need you to know that I have your best interest in mind, even if you don't like what I have to say. And I was like, being teenage Jasmine was like, okay, sounds good. You're my mom. But like, I wish that there was more weight in that at that moment in my life, because I got hurt by a lot of people. And it's like, if I would have taken a fraction of what my mom kind of said, like, hey, there was one girl specifically in high school that she was my friend, and then she quickly bullied me. And my mom once was like, there was one certain instance, like we were at a football game or something like that, and she said something very poor to me. And my mom, like, I got home and I was upset, and she was like, do you realize what her words did for you? And I was like, it was just mean, and kind of like took it at surface. And then I was like, Mom, I just need you to hear me and like take my side, not recognizing that she had my best interest in mind, even though, you know what I mean? And so I think about that, and I was like, shoot, like, she's been here before again, so those are probably the two biggest things that I think I, take away from that. And also like recognizing our parents have been teenagers before. Yeah. Even if the era was different, there's some things that everybody goes through in their teenage years. Every single person goes through it. You go through puberty, hormones, you go through awkward dating, you acne, go through right. You go through awkward outfits, you go through bad haircuts, whatever. Yeah. Like every generation goes through something like that. And so, teenage Jasmine, I wish she would have, acknowledged that a little bit more.
Shout out to teenage Jasmine. I think that as a parent, and I don't have teenagers, but I feel like when you have kids, you think of everything. You start to think of like every way you could screw your kid's life up. No, and it's not a lie. Yeah. You start to think of everything about yourself and like how it could screw your kids up or help them. And what I realized I could have done differently as a teenager is talked to my mom more about her teenage years. Because what I think is it's hard for us as teenagers. So like I'm speaking for when I was where a lot of you young adults are. It's hard to see the person that's raising you, the person that's disciplining you, the person that's correcting you, the person that's restricting you, the person that has control over everything that you have to do. It's hard to see them at your age. It's hard to see them have a crush on a boy, have a crush on a girl, really want to learn how to drive. It's hard to see them learn how to like, do a different sport. It's hard to see them in the hallways of a friend group and like eating lunch with, different. It's hard to see them in that image.
Yeah.
Because I only know you as, okay, you changed my diapers. Ew.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I only know you as the person that corrects me or applauds, the things that I accomplish. Mm-hmm. And so it's a disconnect.
Yeah.
We, because I was an idiot about it. I'm serious. You know what I mean? Like I definitely have been very transparent on this podcast about my relationship with my mom, but I will never not acknowledge the good as well. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at it, I was silly in not recognizing just what she might have gone through as a teenager. And so the things that she contributed to my life, although I just see the disciplinary, the corrector, the, controller of my curfew, the controller of my, she used to call it, we used to be on restriction, like it was punishment. And like, like this person was once, in math class, daydreaming over a boy. Right. Like what? Mm-hmm. Or this person at one point felt insecure walking into the lunchroom, or this person, didn't have a date to the day. Like, I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's hard for us to see that. And I think that when we have that huge, hard disconnect, it's hard to want advice from that person. And it's hard to trust what they say. It's hard when all you hear is like demands and things like that. So I would encourage every teenager to have that talk with your parents. Mm-hmm. Like they know what they're talking about. It might not have happened in 2020 through 2022 because this has been a really sucky high school term for teenagers right now. We're going to talk about that next. Yeah. But it's hard to picture that. It's hard to see that. But I encourage you to talk to your parents, because if you could just like use your imagination and realize that they literally went through what you're going through right now with their parents. Yeah. And it was probably much harder because they couldn't text their friends and tell them how much their parents sucked. Right? Like they couldn't. My mom is not being fair. Right. I remember trash talking my mom. Absolutely. And my mom found out. The person's like I was trash talking my mom to a boy because she wouldn't let me go somewhere. And the boy's mom found the letter because we didn't text. We had to write letters. So there was hard copy. We were silly like that. The boy's mom found the letter because he kept a shoebox of my letters. And she found the letters. That's how we dated back in the day, okay, guys? But she found the letter. And then she saw my mom at a school function or a track meet. And she told on me. And I was like, oh, my God.
That's cold.
And so my point is, like, I did that with that disconnect of not thinking my mom understood. I literally in the letter was like, my mama don't understand. She doesn't get it.
You don't get
You don't get it. She wouldn't let me go to a party with a boy for his birthday. Right. Ugh. That's right.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to ask those questions because one day your kid is going to look at you like you never went to go try to get your permit to get your license, or you never were nervous about asking somebody to the Sadie Hawkins, or what do you guys call it out here?
Tolo.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
Yeah, shoot. And if depending on the relationship with your parents, it can get real crazy. My mom, I thought it was so out of pocket, but my mom would tell me, she goes, if you let a boy touch your boob, you'll get pregnant. She was so out of pocket.
She's not entirely wrong. It's the beginning.
Right. But I look back.
I don't know. What do you...
But I think back to that.
As an adult, I'm like, that makes sense.
Right. It does make sense because also my mom had me really young. And so essentially she was like, let me make sure you don't do what I did. So there was validity in what she said.
That's so funny because as an adult, we're like, she's not wrong. Right. Because I mean, like, let's be honest.
Like low key, I'll probably tell my kids
somewhere. It starts somewhere,
right? Like,
there's a middle, yes. There's middle things that, but it starts.
I had the sex talk, guys. Like we got there, but like that was just the main point that she was like, "This happens. This is the outcome."
That's
and I
so
was like,
funny.
I don't want that outcome.
Got it, Mom. Oh my God! Don't.
Right. I was like, boy, if you don't hold my hand.
Come on, I'm too young to have it.
Right.
But lastly. Look, now we're talking about boob touching, and I forgot.
Had to bring it make it a little lighthearted.
That's what it is. Okay, and I'll let you trigger this conversation. But this pandemic has sucked for teenagers.
Yeah.
What is your hey? We're talking to the teenagers. What do you have to say to them as we like that's our finale chat? What do you have to say to the teenagers?
I would like to say to the teenagers that they are some real life superheroes.
Oh, they're thugs for real.
No,
y'all are I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, I would like to apologize for what you've gone through. I would like to also commend you on so much of what you've overcome and continue to do so. Through the pandemic, we've had the luxury of coaching some athletes, getting to know, some of the teenagers in high school, and watching them go through so many processes has been absolutely mind-blowing to the point we go home and we're like, oh my gosh, this kid is exceptional. I personally could feel like I could have never gone through that. And to watch these kids be resilient to just accomplish so much. And when everything was against them, I just want to commend so many of, the kids that we know, because it's just mind blowing. That's what I would like to say.
I agree. I mean, you guys had so many restrictions, and this is across the world. This isn't even just Washington State. You guys had so many restrictions, and she's right. We got to coach different sports, and I watched just the disadvantages you guys had. I mean, no access to certain training equipment and things like that, and still having to perform your best in a mask. I mean, listen, I love long distance running, but don't put nothing over my face and expect me to make time.
Nope.
Because I gotta breathe. And so seeing that, I have, and I'm not a parent of teenagers, but I'm sure that there are a lot of parents, and I want to pat you guys on the back. I'm sure that there's a lot of parents having gone through your teenage years and understanding how screwed up it is without a pandemic.
Yeah.
And understanding and supporting your children through their teenage years and a pandemic. I want to say thank you for that, just on the parent side. Thank you for understanding that your kids are going through the puberty, the hormones, the craziness, the peer pressure, and virtual school, wearing a mask while they play a sport, not being able to see their friends, not being able to go to functions, prom, right? Missing out on prom, missing out on certain school functions that they've been looking forward to their entire, high school career. So teenagers, I commend you, and we have a heart for you. You missed out on so much, and it probably feels like you've worked so hard to get to a place, and then it was canceled. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of these virtual graduations. You know what I mean? It's a lot. And so you guys are just, we honor you, and you guys are so strong. I'm even now watching, there's a senior night tomorrow that I'm going to attend, and seeing some of the girls and boys that I love to see just accomplish things. They're coming out of having to not being able to celebrate all their accomplishments. And I think this is probably one of the first things that they can actually do normally,
like at a full capacity.
Like, I think so.
Guess,
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But this might be that. And I'm like, wow, like how cool that you finally get that.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see you guys be celebrated. And I'm excited to see you guys just be acknowledged for all you've done.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. And I hope that these, you know, girls and boys feel seen. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that has been like really important to me. I know that there's times where I'm like, I gotta go. I got things in my life. But like, I've sat down and be like, I'm going to take this extra 10 minutes.
Yeah.
To talk, because you're navigating so much in your life. You're trying to figure out who the heck you are. You know what I mean? All this stuff. And then all of the things that we had just mentioned, you're restricted. Like, I hope that, you know, that you're seen, but also I encourage you to take so much of what you've experienced and bring that forward into the next moments of your life, because that I genuinely believe that is what's going to set that generation apart from our generation. If I'm honest, like, I think it's really unfair because I've, you know, heard people argue of like, well, that generation, they're going to be set back and blah, blah, blah. No, I disagree.
I think they worked harder than anybody. Absolutely. They probably are excelling at this point.
Right. There's going to be
all the trials they had to go through just to go to school. Are you kidding me?
Like, we don't need to already talk about having, you know what I mean? We're going to see in 10 years. No, we're going to see within a year, because
they're thriving. I don't care.
Right. I'm like, y'all are doing great. And honestly, I've learned so much from, you know, the girls that are immediately in my life, because I've, you know, helped coach a girls team, but there's so many things that I've come home and I've been like, guess what I learned today? I didn't know all these things, or they're teaching me how to do what on Zoom, or, you know, all this stuff.
They're amazing.
Yeah, just incredible.
You guys are amazing. So all in all, we support you teens, and this is coming from a mama that, like I said, I think I'm going to actually go into my children's teenage years hoping that they hear me when I say I was a teenager before, but also understanding that I was a teenager before, and I sympathize and I understand why they're doing the things that they're doing, which I know that's hard for a lot of parents, but that's what we got to do. Yeah. So my takeaway from this is that all the things that I'm encouraging you guys to do, and I'm telling you about my teen years, is that I'm keeping this at the forefront, so that when my kids start making decisions, changing their attitude, changing the way they think or dress, that I'm like, okay, I was here before, and now I'm going to talk to you about it, rather than try to change you or discipline, you know, what I think is happening. Yeah. So that's why this is such a good and important topic for me. Yeah. Any last words?
Yeah, I mean, quickly, like, I think my biggest takeaway just from this is finding moments to meet your parents where they are, to meet new or, you know, hopeful, you know, flourishing friendships where they are, you know, even we talked about dating for a second, like, meet whoever that person is, like, where they are, without feeling like you have to be somebody, you have to have it figured out, you have to know what your next step is, like, just be able to find friends, that commonality, you know, to meet, you know. And also the biggest thing, honestly, meet yourself where you are. I think that is honestly,
give yourself grace for being a crazy teenager. Right. You got a lot going on in your body right now. Acknowledge that and sit down.
Don't feel like you have to be perfect or whatever. Be awkward, ask weird questions, do whatever, because there's still, I mean, you're going to do that as an adult too. I still do that. I'll be like, Auntie, so here's my thing today. Yikes.
Right. And I will pick up the phone and I'll be ready. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and giving us this space and opportunity to talk about this. And we want to hear from you guys, because we know that you're there. You guys are our amazing, amazing listeners. Thanks for your support.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.